we've compiled a bracket composed of 32 different names. Each portion of the bracket represents a different sport with the top 3 American sports. We've got NFL, MLB, NBA, and the 4th portion of the bracket is other sports, so all the other sports combined. And we want to narrow this down in the end to see who is the greatest athlete of all time. So without further ado, let's get into it. Let's start over here with the NFL portion.
Well, I'm about to make a lot of people really, really mad. So, this is probably the hardest one for the NFL, but right away it's Tom Brady. Here's a simple fact. He's got 5 Super Bowl rings, and not to also mention the fact that he's not even done. He plans on playing for another 6 to 7 more years. That's just crazy in my opinion, which I think he really can do. This next one, Walter Payton, Joe Montana. Now this one's even crazier. I'm going Mr. Sweetness, Walter Payton. Here's a simple fact. Joe Montana had Jerry Rice, Dwight Clark, and all these great guys to throw to. Walter Payton didn't have anyone to run behind. No one. Offensive line was god-awful, and he still won the Super Bowl and is one of the greatest running backs of all time. Next up, we have Lawrence Taylor versus Johnny U. This is a no-brainer. It's Johnny U. He was the very first gold standard of quarterbacks for the NFL. You're Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, Bart Starr. Doesn't matter. Johnny U was the first great quarterback in the history of professional football. Jim Brown, Dick Butkus. This one's a little tough. You have 2 of the original greats. Jim Brown, one of the greatest running backs of all time. Dick Butkus, perhaps one of the most feared defenders in all football.
Really going back in the day with him.
Absolutely. That being said, I'm going Dick Butkus. Despite what people may say about Jim Brown's career accolades, here's a simple fact. Jim Brown had some of the greatest offensive linemen of all time, most notably Hall of Famer Gene Hickerson run behind. Dick Butkus, however, you look at the record, wasn't that great. But when it came to, he was the original, going back to Johnny about gold standard, he was the gold standard of how to tackle and how to dominate on the defensive side of the ball.
Who we got here up with Brady versus Walter Payton? Maybe greatest quarterback and greatest running back?
Well, that's true. While I do love me some sweetness, the simple fact is you can't deny Tom Brady's accolades. He's got 5 Super Bowl rings, a couple MVPs, and like he said, he plans on playing another 6 to 7 years, and he defeated Roger Goodell. Next up, we have Johnny U against Dick Butkus. This is a really tough one, going back to the old standard, but the bottom line is, though, you can't deny greatness, and Johnny U has more greatness than Dick Butkus. And that being said, then, we have 2 of the greatest of all time in quarterbacks. We have the old generation, essentially against the current generation.
You got to give credit to the old guy, but I think you want to lean towards the modern generation.
No, and that's where you're right. You have to agree. I have to agree with you on that one. The simple fact that Tom Brady is still playing at an elite level, despite his age, despite the suspension, despite some of the injuries he's had, there is no rust that he has. He's almost 40 years old, and he has shown no signs of slowing down, even despite the fact that Father Time is behind him.
Fair enough. He's been dominant for a very long period of time. Let's move over to the NBA, and this list is highlighted by maybe the all-time great, Michael Jordan. We've got LeBron James, probably
LeBron,
the best player in the modern generation.
That could be debated too.
So, right here we're going to go with MJ.
That is fair, yes.
I think most people would agree he's the greatest player of all time. 6 rings, the 4th all-time leading scorer.
Never lost in the finals, by the way.
Yeah, so, Charlie, who do we have here? LeBron versus Bill Russell. You're going to be the deciding.
LeBron LeBron and Bill Russell, but it's Bill Russell. I'm sorry. The guy has the most.
Really?
Yes. Most championships of all time. How many times has LeBron been in a final? Okay, let's go back to when he first went to Miami. Went against Dallas. No one would have even expected Dallas to even win a game. And they even win the championship? Look, we hear all these things about LeBron complaining and all that stuff, like he needs more players and more of this. Bill Russell never needed that.
I'm not sure I agree with you there. I think LeBron is on his way to surpassing Jordan.
That's a whole other show.
Debate for another day.
Yeah.
What we got here? Magic Johnson, probably the greatest point guard ever, against Wilt Chamberlain. Guy that stuffed the stat sheet.
Yep, 2 of the greatest Lakers of all time. You also got Abdul-Jabbar on there, but you have to go Wilt Chamberlain. Don't get me wrong. It's like probably the hardest debate on that board alone. But Wilt Chamberlain, 100 points in that one game, and as accolades alone are countless. It's just a whole statue.
100-point game.
Yeah,
might never be done again.
No, sure. There's some times where players come close. Even Kobe almost did it, but it's in today's modern age, there's no way.
And lastly, all-time leading scorer Kareem versus Larry Legend. Who we got here?
You said it yourself. All-time leading scorer. You have to go with Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. There's no question. No question at all.
Seems we have centers dominating this list right now.
Yeah.
Up top, MJ versus Wilt.
I mean, you say yourself the greatest of all time. Michael Jordan, he would easily dunk over Wilt Chamberlain.
And we got
which would be an amazing
speed
poster,
this
by the way.
up. Kareem, all-time leading scorer versus 11 titles.
Kareem. I mean, he's the gold standard of when it comes to scoring in basketball. Now, this is the debate that still goes on today. That being said, it's Michael Jordan, in my opinion. I mean, he's literally the gold standard of an athlete of how to, become not only a superstar on the court, but off the court as well. I mean, just look at his brand and everything else he's doing. And plus, look what he's doing with the Charlotte Hornets and everything right now. It's unspeakable.
I might not agree with LeBron, but MJ coming out of the NBA is fair enough. Let's go down to the MLB.
All right, so the MLB, I mean, we'll make this quick due to time, but really quick. I mean, first bracket, I'm sorry, Mr. Wagner, but it's got to be Babe Ruth. I mean, come on. I mean, there's nothing really more to say about Babe Ruth. When you think of baseball, you think of Babe Ruth right away.
He's on Mount Rushmore.
Next one,
sure.
Hank Aaron versus, okay, I don't count cheaters, so Hank Aaron moves along by default. Okay, Ted Williams, Ty Cobb. This one was a little tough for me. I mean, I spent some time on the sheet, but that being said, though, I have to go Williams. Okay, despite the fact they have the exact same amount of Golden Gloves, I mean, Williams got 2 Triple Crowns, he's a 2-time MVP. I mean, the stats speak for themselves, but it's a very close race, in my opinion, between those two. Next up, I have to go Willie Mays. I mean, 12 Golden Gloves. What more do you need to say about that?
Speaks for itself.
Exactly. Next up, this is very hard, but whenever you think of baseball, you have to think of Babe Ruth. You have to. That's just my opinion. Hank Aaron, one of the greatest of all time, first in home runs, despite what some statisticians may say. And next after that, I'd give it to Willie Mays again, because like I said, the stats speak for themselves. With 12 Golden Gloves, I mean, not more you can say about that, like I said earlier. Going back to the old standard of baseball, I have to go Babe Ruth as the final in for the baseball bracket, simply because, I mean, the guy would literally hit, what other play do you need to say? Simply pointing where the ball is going to go. It's never been done before and will never be done again.
I'd agree. He played in the early 1900s, and he still has records that stand today.
Yeah.
And lastly, we're going to move on to the other sports. We've got one-seeded Michael Phelps against Bo Jackson. Who you got here?
Well, for this one, this was tough, but even Bo knows it's got to be Michael Phelps. I mean, I'm sorry, the guy's got every record for gold medals in the Olympics, and I mean, I don't know if they'll ever be perfected again. I mean, the Olympics, you don't talk about swimmers unless it's the Olympics, but what Michael Phelps did in that short amount of time, it's just not human.
And moving on, fastest man alive, Usain Bolt against Pele, soccer legend.
Yeah, that's why I got to go Pele. I mean, when I think of soccer, I don't think of David Beckham. I think of, Pele. I mean, Usain Bolt might be the fastest man in the world, but Pele literally changed the game of soccer forever. And next up, I mean, Wayne Gretzky against
Great one.
Mike Tyson. This is a very tough. I like Mike Tyson too, but Wayne Gretzky is easily the greatest hockey player of all time. That's why I have to go with Wayne Gretzky.
And I appreciate the impression there.
I could have done better, personally.
Lastly, we got Muhammad Ali and golfing great Jack Nicklaus.
Come on, the people's champion. Come on. Now, don't get me wrong. Everyone would have probably liked me to say Tyson so we can see Tyson and Ali, but I'm sorry, there's no comparison. It's Ali with the greatest sports talker and greatest fighter of all time. And then for the next one, I mean, Phelps and Pele, it's tough, but I have to go Phelps. Again, I'm sorry.
Really?
I mean, just what Phelps did in the short amount of time that all those gold medals he won, it's just not human.
I think people in other countries might disagree, but
it's fair, but
2 of the most dominant athletes we've ever seen.
Actually, that's true. And then Ali and Gretzky, easily the 2 greatest athletes in their respected sports. That being said, though, once again to go with the people's champion, Muhammad Ali. I mean,
Interesting.
I mean, come on, Thrilla Manila fights against just Joe Frazier. Ali he literally went against the government and won essentially. There was nothing this guy could not beat.
And lastly, who's coming out of this other bracket? Phelps versus Ali.
Going back to what I just said, anything you put in front of Ali, he could have won. He would have been Michael Phelps.
All right.
This is where it gets interesting.
Now we move into the Final Four.
Final Four.
The honors is yours.
Thank you. So we easily have the greatest of all time, or the quote-unquote GOATs in each of their respected sports. Tom Brady, Babe Ruth, Michael Jordan, and Ali. This one's tough, but like you said earlier about the modernization, Tom Brady, with what he has done to change the game of football, not just football, but also sports as a whole, is just inhumane, and he's still going at it at a high level. Next up, Michael Jordan, Ali. This is really tough again, but like I said earlier, there's nothing you can do. Michael Jordan And not only, probably been the greatest trash talking thing you've ever saw in your life.
His airness. And
Yeah.
now we've got the final. Perhaps the greatest player in NFL history versus the greatest player in NBA history.
No, it is the greatest player in NFL history versus the greatest player in NBA history.
I'm still keeping the
Yeah,
argument.
we know you don't like Tom Brady. I'm sorry. That being said, though, Michael Jordan. Every single athlete on this board, when they saw him play, wanted to be like Mike.
I think it's fitting to put Michael as the greatest athlete. The term athlete itself, when you think of Tom Brady,
Right.
versus when you think of Michael Jordan,
Oh, yeah. I mean,
Michael
that's-
Jordan
yeah.
is on a different level.
Right, and also, can Tom Brady run a decent 40? No. Can Michael Jordan could probably throw a football 50 yards if he wanted to.